Hello and welcome back to Solomon's Cave. In this video I will be reading all the known fragments of Heraclitus as a companion video to the one I made about his philosophy. Before I begin, I want to give a few pointers. First of all, the numbering. I have found at least 3 different numbering systems for Heraclitus' fragments, and I've decided to go with the one followed by Brooks Haxton in his version, published by Penguin Classics. Perhaps not the most academic source, but likely the most accessible for most of us. Secondly, the translation. Heraclitus' fragments are notoriously witty, poetic, and do a lot with wordplay and layered meanings, which means they are very difficult to translate. Hence, your translation may read quite different from mine. Thirdly, speaking of my translation, in order to avoid problems with copyrights, I almost always followed the translation of John Burnett as it can be found on Wikisource. Link is in the description. With all that out of the way, here are Heraclitus' fragments. Fragment 1. Though this word is true evermore, yet men are as unable to understand it when they hear it for the first time as before they've heard it at all. For, though all things come to pass in accordance with this word, men seem as if they had no experience of them, when they make trial of words and deeds such as I set forth, dividing each thing according to its kind and showing how it truly is. But other men know not what they are doing when awake, even as they forget what they do in sleep. Fragment 2. It is wise not to listen to me, but to the word, and to confess that all things are one. Fragment 3. Fools, when they do hear, are like the deaf. Of them does the saying bear witness, that they are absent when present. Fragment 4. Eyes and ears are bad witnesses to men, if they have souls that understand not their language. Fragment 5. The many do not take heed of such things as those they meet with, nor do they mark them when they are taught, though they think they do. Fragment 6. Knowing not how to listen nor how to speak. Fragment 7. If you do not expect the unexpected, you will not find it, for it is hard to be sought out and difficult. Fragment 8. Those who seek for gold dig up much earth and find a little. Fragment 9 I skip it because its authenticity is quite questionable. Fragment 10. Nature loves to hide. Fragment 11. The Lord to whom the oracle at Delphi belongs neither utters nor hides his meaning, but shows it by a sign. Fragment 12. And the Sibyl, with raving lips uttering things, mirthless, undecorated, and unperfumed, reaches over 1,000 years with her voice, thanks to the God in her. Fragment 13. The things that can be seen, heard, and learned are what I prize the most. Fragment 14. Now that we can travel anywhere, we need no longer take the poets and myth-makers for sure witnesses about disputed facts. Fragment 15. The eyes are more exact witnesses than ears. Fragment 16. The learning of many things does not teach understanding, else it would have taught Hesiod and Pythagoras, and again Xenophonus and Hecataeus. Fragment 17. Pythagoras, son of Mnesarchus, practiced scientific inquiry beyond all other men, at making a selection of these writings, claimed for his own wisdom what was but knowledge of many things and an imposture. Fragment 18. Of all whose discourses I have heard, there is not one who attains to understanding that wisdom is apart from all. Fragment 19. Wisdom is one thing. It is to know the thought by which all things are steered through all things. Fragment 20. This world, which is the same for all, no one of gods or men has made, but it was ever, is now, and ever shall be an ever-living fire, with measures of it kindling and measures going out. Fragment 21. The transformations of fire are, first of all, sea, and half of the sea is earth, half whirlwind. Fragment 22. All things are in exchange for fire and fire for all things, even as wares for gold and gold for wares. Fragment 23. It becomes liquid sea, and is measured by the same tale as before it became earth. Fragment 24. Fire is lack and left over. Fragment 25. Fire lives the death of air, and air lives the death of fire. Water lives the death of earth, and earth that of water. Fragment 26. Fire in its advance will judge and convict all things. Fragment 27. How can one hide from that which never sets? Fragment 28. It is the thunderbolt that steers the course of all things. Fragment 29. The sun will not overstep its measures. If it does, the Erinyes, the handmaid of justice, will find him out. Fragment 30. The limit of dawn and evening is the bear, and opposite the bear is the boundary of bright Zeus. Fragment 31. If there were no sun, it would be night, for all the other stars could do. Fragment 32. The sun is new every day. Fragment 33. Thales foretold an eclipse. Fragment 34. The sun is the timekeeper of the seasons that bring all things. Fragment 35. Hesiod is most men's teacher. Men are sure he knew very many things. A man who did not know day or night, they are one. Fragment 36. God is day and night, winter and summer, war and peace, abundance and hunger. But he takes various shapes, just as fire, when it is mingled with spices, is named according to the savor of each. Fragment 37. If all things were turned to smoke, the nostrils would distinguish them. Fragment 38. Souls smell of Hades. Fragment 39. Cold things become warm, and what is warm cools. What is wet dries, and what is parched is moistened. Fragment 40. It scatters and it gathers. It advances and retires. Fragments 41 and 42. You cannot step twice into the same rivers, for fresh waters are ever flowing in upon you. Fragment 43. Therefore, Heraclitus rightly calls them atonements, since they are to make amends for evils and render the souls free from the dangers in generation. Fragment 44. War is father of all and the king of all, and some he has made gods and some men, some bond and some free. Fragment 45. Men do not know how what is at variance agrees with itself. It is an attunement of opposite tensions, like that of the bow and the lyre. Fragment 46. It is the opposite which is good for us. Fragment 47. The hidden attunement is better than the open. Fragment 48. Let us not conjecture at random about the greatest things. Fragment 49. Men that love wisdom must be acquainted with very many things indeed. Fragment 50. The straight and the crooked path of the fuller's comb is one and the same. Fragment 51. Asses would rather have straw than gold. Fragment 52. The sea is the most pure and the least pure water. Fish can drink it, and it is good for them. To men, it is undrinkable and destructive. Fragments 53 and 54. Swine wash in the mire, and barnyard fowls in dust. Fragment 55. Every beast is driven to pasture with blows. Fragment 56. The cosmos works by harmony of tensions, like the lyre and the bow. Fragment 57. Therefore good and ill are one. Fragment 58. Physicians who cut, burn, stab and rack the sick demand a fee for it, which they do not deserve to get. Fragment 59. Couples are things whole and things not whole, what is drawn together and what is drawn asunder, the harmonious and the discordant. The one is made up of all things, and all things issue from the one. Fragment 60. Men would not have known the name of justice if these things were not. Fragment 61. To God all things are fair and good and right, but men hold some things wrong and some right. Fragment 62. We must know that war is common to all and strife is justice, and that all things come into being and pass away through strife. Fragment 63. Thus all things are decreed by fate. Fragment 64. All things we see when awake are death, even as all we see in slumber are sleep. Fragment 65. The wise is one only. It is unwilling and willing to be called by the name of Zeus. Fragment 66. The bow, bios, is called life, bios, but its work is death. Fragment 67. Mortals are immortals, and immortals are mortals. The one living the other's death, and dying the other's life. Fragment 68. For it is death to souls to become water, and death to water to become earth. But water comes from earth, and from water, soul. Fragment 69. The way up and the way down is one and the same. Fragment 70. In the circumference of a circle, the beginning and the end are common. Fragment 71. You will not find the boundaries of soul by traveling in any direction. So deep is the measure of it. Fragment 72. It is pleasure to souls to become moist. Fragment 73. A man, when he gets drunk, is led by a beardless lad, tripping, knowing not where he steps, having his soul moist. Fragment 74. The dry soul is the wisest and best. Fragments 75 and 76. A dry light dries the earth. Fragment 77. Man kindles a light for himself in the night time, when he has died but is alive. The sleeper whose vision has been put out lights up from the dead. He that is awake lights up from the sleeping. Fragment 78. And it is the same thing in us, that is quick and dead, awake and asleep, young and old. The former are shifted and become the latter, and the latter in turn are shifted to become the former. Fragment 79. Time is a child playing draughts. The kingly power is a child's. Fragment 80. I have sought for myself. Fragment 81. We step and do not step into the same rivers. We are and are not. Fragment 82. It is a weariness to labor for the same masters and be ruled by them. Fragment 83. It rests by changing. Fragment 84. Even the posset separates if it is not stirred. Fragment 85. Corpses are more fit to be cast out than dung. Fragment 86. When they are born, they wish to live and to meet their dooms, or rather to rest, and they leave children behind them to meet their own dooms in turn. Fragment 87. In 30 years, a newborn boy can grow to father him a son, who grows by then to father sons himself. Fragment 88. 30, therefore, names the moon of generation. Fragment 89. Look, the baby born under the new moon, under the old moon, holds her grandchild in her arms. Fragment 90. Those who are asleep are fellow workers in what goes on in the world. Fragment 91. Thought is common to all. Those who speak with understanding must hold fast to what is common to all, as a city holds fast to its law, and even more strongly. For all human laws are fed by the one divine law. It prevails as much as it will, and suffices for all things with something to spare. Fragment 92. So we must follow the common. Yet, though my word is common, the many live as if they had a wisdom of their own. Fragment 93. They are estranged from that with which they have most constant intercourse. Fragment 94. People need to act and speak as if they were asleep. Fragment 95. The waking have one common world, but the sleeping turn aside, each into a world of his own. Fragment 96. The way of man has no wisdom, but that of God has. Fragment 97. Man is called a baby by God, even as a child by a man. Fragments 89 and 99. The wisest man is an ape compared to God, just as the most beautiful ape is ugly compared to man. Fragment 100. The people must fight for its law as for its walls. Fragment 101. Greater deaths win greater portions. Fragment 102. God and man honor those who are slain in battle. Fragment 103. Wantonness needs putting out, even more than a house on fire. Fragment 104. It is not good for men to get all they wish to get. It is sickness that makes health pleasant, evil good, hunger plenty, weariness rest. Fragment 105. It is hard to fight one's heart's desire. Whatever it wishes to get, it purchases at the cost of soul. Fragment 106. It pertains to all men to know themselves and to learn self-control. Fragment 107. Self-control is the highest virtue, and wisdom is to speak truth, and consciously to act according to nature. Fragment 108. It is best to hide folly, but it is hard in times of relaxation over our cups. Fragment 109. It is better to conceal ignorance than to expose it. Fragment 110. And it is law, too, to obey the counsel of one. Fragment 111. For what thought of wisdom have they? They follow the poets, and take the crowd as their teacher, knowing not that there are many bad and few good. Fragment 112. In Priam lived Bias, son of Tutamas, who is of more account than the rest. He said, most men are bad. Fragment 113. One is 10,000 to me, if he be the best. Fragment 114. The Ephesians would do well to hang themselves, every grown man of them, and leave the city to beardless lads, for they have cast out Hermodorus, the best man among them, saying, we will have none who is best among us. If there be any such, let him be so elsewhere and among others. Fragment 115. Dogs bark at every one they do not know. Fragment 116. The wise man is not known because of man's want of belief. Fragment 117. The fool is fluttered at every word. Fragment 118. The most esteemed of them knows but fancies, and holds fast to them. Yet of a truth, justice shall overtake the artificers of lies and the false witnesses. Fragment 119. Homer should be turned out of the lists and whipped, and Archilochus likewise. Fragment 120. One day is like any other. Fragment 121. Man's character is his fate. Fragment 122. There awaits men, when they die, such things as they look not for, nor dream of. Fragment 123. They rise up and become the wakeful guardians of the quick and the dead. Fragment 124. Nightwalkers, magicians, Bacchians, mystics, and the initiated. Fragment 125. The mysteries practiced among men are unholy mysteries. Fragment 126. And they pray to these images, as if one were to talk with a man's house, knowing not what gods or heroes are. Fragment 127. For if it were not to Dionysus that they made a procession and sang the shameful phallic hymn, they would be acting most shamelessly. But Hades is the same as Dionysus, in whose honor they go mad and rave. Fragment 128. I distinguish two kinds of sacrifices. First, those of man wholly purified, such as would rarely happen, in the case of a single individual, as Heraclitus says, or of a certain very few men. Fragment 129. They vainly purified themselves by defiling themselves with blood, just as if one who had stepped into the mud were to wash his feet in mud. Any man who marked him doing thus would deem him mad. Fragment 130. Silence. Healing.